Hey, friends, welcome to yet another episode of the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Eggert. Today's guest is an author, podcast host, and one of the foremost experts in the succession, transition, and exit planning process for business owners. I'm excited to share with you the journey of my friend, Julie Keyes. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Aaron. It's great to be here.
It's always fun having another podcaster on the show. And I alluded to that at the beginning because you get the idiosyncrasies of kind of the behind the scenes stuff. And it's almost sometimes a little intimidating, which is fun. And I like that kind of helps me level up a little bit. So to have you on the show is a thrill, and you're a wealth of knowledge, and it's going to be fun to dig into your journey.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's going to be fun for sure.
Yeah.
It's nice to be on the other side too, to be honest.
It's about time, right? Let's get you on the other side and start firing away some questions here.
Okay.
So before I dig in, my first question is going to be, will you please address your pronouns for the show?
She and her.
Great. Thank you. And let's dig in. So born and raised in Minnesota, and I think small town, right?
Very small town.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and what your family dynamic was and what it was like in what town and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so I grew up in Loretto, Minnesota, which is still Hennepin County. Hard to believe, but it is. And I went to Delano High School because Loretto was too small to have its own high school. So for those listening who are from the Twin Cities, I went to high school with Terry Train, who used to be a KQ DJ.
Yeah.
And dated her brother, who was a baseball star. And her dad actually went to high school with, and her mother, both deceased, went to school with my mom and dad. So it's kind of strange, that we had all those connections. I don't see her very often, but she now is a famous pumpkin patch and apple orchard owner. You may have been to her. It's just amazing. I've been wanting to get her on my show for a couple of years, but she's so busy. But it's just awesome. So if you haven't been there, I would recommend it. Anyway, Delano was a great place to go to school. I was in, sports and student council and all that kind of stuff. And some awards. Yeah. And I had two younger sisters, and my mom and dad were both entrepreneurs, as well as their parents before them.
So, I think about, there's a couple of things I like to always talk about on their show. And one of those things is nature versus nurture. And so, I look at, this is really fascinating, especially for someone that comes from generations of entrepreneurs. And so the nature versus nurture thing is, part of me wonders if entrepreneurship is in your blood because you've had multiple generations. But another part of me wonders is how you were nurtured into being an entrepreneur because of the environment that you were brought up in. I think maybe a good cop out on that is a 50-50 blend. Where do you think you fall in that continuum?
I'm going to take the 50-50 blend, honestly, because I know, being a business advisor and have been now for 12 years, that entrepreneurism isn't for everyone. So just because you're raised by them doesn't mean that you're cut out to be a business owner, right? I just knew for probably most of my childhood, all of my adult life, I've been an entrepreneur, but most of my childhood, I knew that I was going to have my own gig. I didn't know what it was going to be or how big it would be or anything like that. I just knew I wanted to have my own business. I've always been self-motivated, and I'm that kind of person that if I'm not sure how to do something, then I either learn how to do it or I find someone who knows how. So I'm not kind of that person that just goes, well, I give up.
Yeah.
Because you really can't be, right? You have to be hired with, or just like wired with resilience, I should say.
So what type of businesses, we don't have to go back generations unless you want to, but tell me about your parents' businesses.
Yeah. My dad owned a financial planning and insurance agency for all of my childhood and many years of my adult life. Actually, he just literally sold his book of business a few years ago, and he's in his 80s. So
wow, that's awesome.
He had a hard time letting go, and he admits it. It's that sense of relevancy thing, we can talk about that later, but
for sure. Yeah.
My mom was a sales rep with her own, it was kind of like a multi-level marketing type of company, but not like the kind that you normally would think. She had a downline and an upline, but she was like the manager of her area, and it was her business. So she had, I don't know, 15 or 20 reps that she had to manage and coach and stuff like that. And then she had her own business, and it was art. It was original art, like oils, watercolors, silk screens, things like that, from artists all over the world. And it was a very high end product. And she would conduct these sales through going into people's homes and conducting shows in their home so they could actually see what it looks like on their wall.
Yeah.
And she did that for a long time.
Really?
Numerous awards. Yeah, I'm going to be the recipient of some of the furs and jewelry that she won.
Yeah.
Me and
Yeah.
my not looking forward to that day, trust me, but she keeps talking about that. Now, which ring would you like, Julie?
Right. Well, that's part of the process, but I mean, what a
Yeah.
cool legacy that she's built, and your dad too, right? To hold on to that business for so long. And I think that's one of those businesses that is the reason why people get into that type of business, is they can do it forever, or, quote unquote forever. And that there's no such thing as retirement. And then just when they feel like transitioning out, they can go.
Well, and he didn't build a large firm with lots of people. He got really burned with a partner midway through, and decided that it wasn't for him to build out a practice with lots of other advisors. So, which was unfortunate, because I think that, things could have been a lot different.
Yeah.
But not everybody who wants to become an entrepreneur is interested in having, an asset that they can sell someday. Many businesses out there are just lifestyle businesses. And that's really, what I've had for probably the last 7 or 8 years. But I've really spent a lot of time in the last 5 years really building out products and things that can live on without me, that make my business more valuable, aside from the work that I do as a consultant,
Yeah. And we'll dig into that in a little bit, but I know that as a consultant, and the work that you do is very hands-on, and there can be emotional aspects of that and stuff. So to have a little bit of a two-headed monster of like being able to have some product and be able to provide a tool and tools to people, but then also dig in, that to me is epic. So, okay, we'll dig into that in a little bit. Loretto/Delano. So I live just south of there. I'm in Buster Prairie, so I go through Delano all the time. So I know that area really good. What were you a good kid? Did you get into shenanigans? You said sports and you said the arts, and I know you were big into choir and some of those things, but were you, country kids can get into some trouble. Did you get into any trouble? Were you good, or would you explain that?
Could I plead the fifth?
No, that's not why I asked the question.
Okay, well, you're absolutely right. You do get into some trouble when you live in the country, because you can get away with it. Yeah. Oh yeah. The weird thing about me when I was in school is, and not everybody is like this, but this is just me, because I just love people. I didn't get into the clique thing. And when you're in a small town and a small school, cliques are very prominent, right?
Yeah.
I had friends in all the groups. I had friends in the burnout group. I had friends in the jock group because I was in sports. I had friends in the nerd group because I got good grades. I had, you know what I mean? So I just kind of flopped around from one group to the next, and I didn't really care if I fit into any of them, because I had friends in all of them, right? Just probably, why I don't really feel compelled to go to our reunions, just because most of the people that go are the ones that were in the cliques that I didn't want to belong to.
You and I subscribed to the same mindset. I was the same thing. I kind of bounced around and kind of got along with everybody, and I haven't been to a reunion since they started having them, so it's just not my thing. So we share that. I like that. You alluded to the fact that you've won some awards when you were in high school, and you did some really cool things. What is one that you're probably, as you still to this day, you look back on and you just beam with pride?
When I was in choir a lot, and I was in an ensemble. There were 5 of us, and we won the state competition, first place.
Cool.
So that was I was shocked And we were good, but there were so many groups that were good, and
Yeah.
we won, and I was just like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I just was expecting, like a bigger school, more well-known kind of community thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
groovy.
Well, and plus it's great that it's a team, that's a team thing too, right? So it's not like an
Right.
individual award. So you got to do it with all the people, and you can't, the deal with choir is that you got to have that ensemble to be able to bring it all together. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
was fun.
Yeah. All right. What'd you do after high school?
I went to North Hennepin Community College and worked full-time and part-time. So I had a lot of jobs.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so my college years, and then when I was done with that, then I went to the University of Minnesota. I worked full-time during the day when I went there, and I went to night school to finish my degree and in marketing.
Hmm.
And I wrote, at that time, they had a program called the baccalaureate degree where you could kind of write your own program, and then they had to approve, based on the classes that you selected and what you'd already taken, and that they would award you this baccalaureate degree in whatever field you were planning to work in. And I did, and they did, and those were some very busy years. I worked a lot and studied a lot and didn't do a whole lot of anything else.
Yeah, heads down. Yeah, and that says a lot. I think that's a lot about that entrepreneurial spirit, is that that drive that
Mhm.
you had to get to that next. Just get let's get done with school here, so I can get going on some of the things that I got bubbling up in the back of my mind, type of a mindset.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. I used to live in an apartment downtown Minneapolis, when there was still a dome stadium. Remember the Metrodome?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And yeah, and I worked at, if you know where Hennepin County Medical Center is, there used to be two hospitals next to each other, or three actually. So there was Mount Sinai Metropolitan Medical Center and Hennepin County Medical Center. Well, I worked at Metropolitan Medical Center just every other weekend as a nursing assistant because I did that work in high school and college. And then I just continued that work when I moved downtown. But I'm this Loretto girl who doesn't have any downtown experience. And now I'm immersed. Like I
Yeah.
not only work downtown, I go to school downtown and I live downtown. So I
Yeah.
did a lot of stupid stuff. Okay. Yeah. And including, so I have this old apartment building that's like near the dome, and that was not a good neighborhood. Okay.
Mm.
But I didn't know that. And so I'm working at the hospital and I get off at 11:30 at night. And what do? Instead of taking the bus to get to my apartment, which is only 6 blocks that way, so much quicker to just walk there, right? So I cut through Elliott Park because it was so
Oh
quick. Not a good place to cut through. Yeah.
yeah.
So
No.
yeah, yeah. Thankfully, nothing happened to me. But
Yeah.
and I was in a very old building, like I said, and we had squirrels, and the squirrels would, yeah. So I, woke up one morning and I got a squirrel hopping through my living room.
Oh
So
my
that took,
goodness.
I know it took 2 or 3 months to get rid of the thing. They just came in through the ceiling and then underneath the sink, and for the longest time I thought it was a rat, and then I finally saw it and it was a squirrel. My roommate moved out with her cat because she was so afraid. So I'm by myself walking around my apartment in snowmobile boots because I'm afraid the dang thing's gonna bite
Right,
me.
bite your feet. And the one ally you had in the whole thing was the cat, because the
I
cat
know,
should have
right?
been getting after it. And
Yeah,
are
she
you
didn't
kidding
want
me?
the cat to
Oh
get
my,
bit. Like,
oh
thanks a
my,
lot, Chris.
yeah, no kidding, no kidding.
No BB gun, no nothing.
So when you went to community college and then transferred over to the U, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do after college, or were you just kind of, based on your baccalaureate degree and the degree you designed, was it something that you were just trying to mix and match things that were things that you really enjoyed doing, and then you just quote unquote figure it out, or did you have something in the back of your mind?
I didn't really have anything in the back of my mind. I just really enjoyed the field of marketing and sales. I mean,
Hmm.
they're not the same thing. A lot of business owners think they are, but they're not.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed both. I enjoyed the creativity of marketing, and nerdy kind of people like the analysis part and the research part, and I thought that was super interesting too. I always liked advertising. I mean, there's so much under marketing. It's like saying
Hmm.
medicine, right? Um, And so I really didn't know. I just loved the field. And I also loved people. So I thought, well, if I end up in sales and I'm not in marketing, it's still okay because they're related, right? So yeah, the answer is no, I really didn't know. But I did get a job in the marketing department at Minnesota Title before I graduated. So which was why I was working full-time during the day. So I was like in the field, working in the field, and then going to school at night.
And then you transit. So actually, let's take a quick break. We're gonna listen to a few of our community supporters, and then I want to start digging into your career, because that's really what catapulted you into entrepreneurship. So
Mhm.
let's take a quick break, and we'll hear from a few of our community supporters right now. If you're anything like me, you know enough to be dangerous when it comes to finance, yet need some help when things get complicated. All-in-One Accounting provides the right financial expertise and leadership to align with your stage of growth. From outsourced accounting and bookkeeping to strategic financial planning, the team of accounting rockstars at All-in-One Accounting are passionate about positively impacting the businesses and lives of their clients. You need to check them out at allinoneaccounting.com. All-in-One Accounting, taking our clients from financial chaos to business clarity and beyond. All right, everybody needs a bank. Not just any bank, a good community bank. From personal needs like checking and savings accounts to business services like financing and M&A support, the team at Flagship Bank is there to provide you with the assistance you need so you can spend less time thinking about your finances and more time enjoying what your money can do for you. To learn more, head over to Flagship Banks, that's flagshipbanks with an S.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Flagship Bank, investing in you. Every year brings new challenges for Minnesota business leaders, and USI Insurance is here to take the pressure off of the employee benefits decision. Having a local presence with national resources, USI combines a client-centric culture with leading-edge technical resources so you can make an informed decision on your benefits investment. The USI team has been deeply committed to investing into our local communities and utilizes their expertise to provide solutions you can count on to protect your greatest asset, your employees. USI has been partnering with Twin Cities businesses for decades, and they would welcome the opportunity to do the same for you. Visit USI.com to learn how USI's approach to risk management and employee benefits delivers customized, actionable solutions with bottom-line impact. Verseek Search and Consulting is thrilled to support Coalition9 and this podcast, and we are just as excited to have them as a partner. Verseek is a Minnesota-based, high-performance recruiting firm that specializes in interim solutions, direct hire, and executive leadership search. Their team of experienced professionals and seasoned leaders across various areas of expertise and industries have been in your shoes. They quickly assess your whole company and identify key elements that will take your business to the next level. Your company's success hinges on the capacity of your people, and few areas of your business are more critical than your finance and accounting team. Your company's success hinges on the capacity of your people. Verseek can help connect you with the talented candidates within finance and accounting, along with other areas of expertise in executive search, direct hire, and interim solutions. People are the ultimate business advantage. Find your people together with Verseek and make the best possible for your business. Learn more and contact Verseek by visiting Verseek.com and following them on LinkedIn. If you're an entrepreneur or married to one, your journey is complex. You want financial advice that impacts your whole net worth, including your business, not just stock market investments. You also want a partner that quarterbacks the relationships between the CPA, estate planner, banker, and other trusted advisors. That's where the team at eWealth Partners comes in. We love helping you and your spouse design a financial plan that aligns and empowers you. A plan that addresses your concerns, priorities, and goals tailored to reach your long-term vision. A long-term vision that is worth the pursuit today. Visit ewealthpartners.com to learn how they can help couples like you. eWealth Partners, holistic financial planning for entrepreneurs. Investment advisor services offered through AdvisorNet Wealth Management. eWealth Partners and AdvisorNet Wealth Management are not affiliated. All right, we're back with Drew the Keys, and we've gotten up to the point to where you've gotten your first gig. You were actually kind of in school still, so you were doing double duty, going to school and working. And so, talk about that first. I'm going to call it another air quotes real job that you had, that you're doing double duty here, and then it eventually transitioned to where it kind of catapulted the next part of your career.
So after I left the title business, or I shouldn't say left the title business because I ended up back in it later in life. But I was at Minnesota Title and I got promoted numerous times, which is when I got this full-time job in marketing. And my job in marketing was to bring business in the door, right? And so I was given a territory in the Twin Cities to call on builders, realtors, mortgage companies, lenders, banks, right? And so I did that and I was very successful. I brought in a lot of business. And one of my customers, clients, if you could, call them I guess a client, I don't know. Anyway, they recruited me to become a mortgage loan officer. And that was in the mid 80s. And as far as I knew, I was the only woman loan officer in the Twin Cities at that time. I never saw anyone else. It was all men. And so that wasn't a fun time because I was young and better looking. And, there were a lot of skirt chasers out there in those days. And I was, I was a girl from Loretto, let's face it. And yeah, so Minnesota nice is a real thing, but it's not a good thing. Yeah. And so there were many times I needed to bop somebody in the nose, but I never did. But it was a good way to make a living. And I did loans for 9 years. And it's a straight commission job. I was on my own. I had an apartment. They gave me a draw for 90 days, but after that, you're on your own. So go get some biz, which I did. Yeah. And I did that for a while. I went to a few companies as I learned the business and learned, what products I really wanted to be able to offer. And when I got into the business, rates were 12.5%.
Ooh.
So, yeah. And they had been coming down, from 21, from 1981 or 80. And so continually throughout the whole time that I was in that business, the rates just kept dropping. So we're whining right now about 6.5, but my gosh, my first loan on my first house was an adjustable rate mortgage that started at 8.5. And I thought I just won the lottery,
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, kind of giving it context. And so when I got out of mortgage, I was engaged to an attorney who really wanted to practice real estate law. And so together, and I'm making a long story short here, we launched our own title insurance company.
And was there a legal aspect to it too, to where you kind of were able to I know. Yeah. Okay. So it was, and then did you run one side of the business and he ran the other side of the business, or did you two run it together?
He managed the technical side of the title insurance business, especially on the legal side of things, because he had a lot of clients that needed his help. We worked with a lot of developers and we did a lot of commercial master plan plats and things like that, and contracts and, all of those things he did. I really ran the business and the operations side and growing it. So we grew it, for being small and unaffiliated with any other real estate company. We had a nice run for 20 years, 21 years.
Do you think that so one thing I'll say is, as I've gotten to know you, is that I feel you're super kind and I can feel the warmth from your heart, but also I kind of feel like you're no bullshit, right? Like you are not afraid to cut to the chase, and probably what makes you really good on what you do now. So I promise there's a reason why I'm saying this. So you alluded to those times when you were working in mortgage and you wanted to bop some people in the nose and probably do a lot more than that. And that probably hardened you a little bit to where you maybe became a little bit cynical about the good old boys club and all that other stuff. Do you think that was I think I know where I'm going here, but like a super positive experience to where then that helped shape you to be the type of entrepreneur you wanted to be when you did go into business at that time?
I think it helped. I think I learned more as an entrepreneur than I did as a mortgage banker about being resilient and about not putting up with bullshit. It took me a long time to give myself permission to not put up with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I hate to say learning by mistakes, but I mean, that's just the way it is,
Yep.
So one of the reasons why I became an advisor is because I wanted to do what I could to help people to not make a lot of the same ones.
Yeah.
Because the learning curve was really long and, our marriage never made it. So we really weren't partners in that business. I wanted to be, but he was never interested in leading, for one thing, and learning about how to like run a business. He just wanted to stick with the technical side, and that was it. So I was on my own, and I made lots of mistakes as I was on my own because there was so many, there's so many things that you have to juggle. People you're managing, locations I'm opening. I mean, it was just like a lot of hats. Plus, I had 4 kids, and so I didn't sleep much in those years. But I
Yeah.
really did learn a lot. And you really do, get to a point, at least I did, where I knew what I wanted. I knew what I was good at, but I also knew what I wasn't good at.
Hmm. Hmm.
So one of the things that I have, shared with my clients and when I'm speaking, I think because it's an eye opener for so many people when we're talking about our staff and how we're trying to bring in the best people. I just ask people, identify whether you're a leader or a manager, because if you're really good at one or the other, it's generally not both. And that's a big eye opener for a lot of people. I know it was for me because I had to manage people, but I'm
Yeah.
really not good at it.
Yeah.
I'm much better at, trailblazing and leading the charge.
You know what?
Um,
One of the things that I think about too, and we've even talked about in some Coalition 9 groups, and I've mentioned this before on this podcast to some people, is that I almost look at let's take the word manager out of it, is like I think that sometimes there's just really good owners and then there's really good leaders. And those two sometimes are mutually exclusive because owners sometimes they just have good, they've got money and they just know how to like just make business happen, but just
mhm.
keep them out of the day to day, because as soon as they do, it's like a hurricane hits landfall and it just everything gets all effed up.
Right.
Where leaders know how to, even though they may not be great managers, at least they know how to lead and inspire the people to
Yes.
where those two things can they can be symbiotic, but yet they should kind of stay away from each other.
I agree. And I think that the owner side of things, those people tend to be more independent, and, just want to operate on their own or just with a small staff, which was
Yeah.
probably more like my dad.
Mm.
And a good leader is able to recognize the strengths in the people that they have around them and then surround themselves with people who have strengths different than their own.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Yeah, so you go through all these things to owning a business for 21 years, and I'm not going to dig into the marriage side of things, but the marriage didn't survive it, and you eventually decided to move on. And so I think at what year was it when you started your exit planning business?
Well, I started becoming, I became a business consultant um, after the divorce was over. So and that took a while, divorcing a lawyer takes
Oh yeah.
time and
Yeah.
don't expect to win. So
No.
that's life. It's
Yeah.
just life. So anybody
Yeah.
listening out there,
You had the trifecta, Julie. You had
oh
one
my
an
God.
attorney, two a business, and three a marriage, and that is like a three-headed monster. So to try and unwind all that, boy, we could probably bust out a whole podcast on that, and we'd probably need alcohol. So, yeah, well,
Yeah, there was
we'll dig into
copious
that.
months of that once in a while, let me tell you.
Yeah, we'll dig into that someday off the air.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
so you started your business consulting business, which eventually
yeah.
became what it is today. So what was that paradigm shifting event that you decided you're all right, I'm not doing title stuff anymore. That part of that chapter of my life is done.
Mhm.
What was that catalyst for you to do what you're doing?
Yeah, good question. I think that this is something that a lot of people could really um, exercise because I think it helps when you're trying to discern. So I had to get a job, a job, in order to, in order to qualify for a mortgage so I could buy a house. And being in the business for as long as I was, I knew it had to be 2 complete years because I went back to mortgage, which I knew, and 2 complete years of good commission that I could qualify. So I had to do that
Mm-hmm.
first, and then bought my house, closed in June, quit my job in July, and then flew out to Connecticut to get trained as a business coach from a franchise that I joined the month later.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in 2011. And then from there, I started acquiring clients that were of the age that they needed to start planning for their exit. But before I chose to take this consulting job, I contacted 10 people and I listed these 10 people. Some were family members, some were my friends, and some hadn't known me quite as long. Okay, so I kind of had a good variety. And I asked them 3 or 4 questions. I said, what do you think about me in terms of my strengths and weaknesses? And if I were going to apply those strengths and weaknesses to a career, what could you see me doing? And then after I got those answers, which were really, really, they really felt good. Like they really edified me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so they all kind of were aligned with what I was thinking. So then after I got all of that information, I emailed everybody back individually, and I said, I'm thinking about becoming a business consultant, business coach. What do you think? Every single person said that is exactly what you should do. That is exactly what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 3 companies that came to me and asked me within a course of 6 months, 3 different companies, which is why I considered it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I knew a third time's a charm. All right. So I got to test my audience again and ask them what they think. The only person who said, I don't think that's a good idea is my dad.
Ah,
Right. Because I
interesting.
still had 2 of my 4 kids at home, and they were getting to the age where they were going to start college, and I just closed on a house. So when you think about that, and if you're the dad, you're going, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that was probably
he's
he
coming
was
at
being
it from a totally different perspective, right? Of just like,
yeah,
he couldn't take his dad hat off. He was more,
right,
he was right. He wasn't coming at it from a trusted advisor standpoint. He was coming at it from a loving father.
right. Couldn't blame
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Totally
Yeah.
don't blame him. Yeah. So you gotta, sorry, but you gotta discount that feedback and just go with all the other ones.
And
And
I
I think
did.
that's
Yeah.
a really good, like, I've talked about this when I've made the change to doing what I'm doing now, is that I did what I call the 10 coffee tour. And so go have coffee with people and ask some of the
Sure.
same questions of like, hey, here's kind of where I think that I'm really good at some things. Here's where I kind of suck. What do you think? Like, I'm in my own head. You're out of it. Like, what do you think? And I think that's the way you handled that was really thoughtful, and the foresight you had to do that and then turn it into something now that is where I wasn't kidding. Like, in our community, in the Twin Cities community, you are known as being the foremost expert in succession,
Mhm.
transition, and exit planning. And a
Mhm.
lot of that is because the work that you've done to become that thought leader, the effort that you've put into self-educating, and the experience that you've had working with people, the podcast, you've, and there's a story in this business that you've built of like laser focus. And when you say the word business consultant at the beginning of what you were going in here, it's really interesting how you went down the path of that because you probably felt a pain. What was that
Mhm.
paradigm shifting event to where you were like, I'm dialing in on exit planning, I'm dialing in on succession?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I was with the franchise before I left, we had access to an assessment called the Sellability Score, which is now called the Value Builder, which was generated by a guy named John Warrillow. If you've ever read any of his books on, Built to Sell, The Art of Selling Your Business, that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
we had access to that tool, and so I started doing these presentations on it, and I started getting connections with people that really wanted to know more about it. And I realized I don't know anything about exit planning, but I know mine wasn't the best and it could have been better if I would have had good advisors who actually knew what they were talking about. So in
Mhm.
hindsight, I looked back and I'm like, oh my gosh, this was a shit show.
Yeah.
It could have been so
Yeah.
much better. And so I just started searching and asking questions of people that I knew were spending time like in valuation and business continuity and stuff like that. And I learned about the Exit Planning Institute. So that was like my aha moment. I'm going to get certified, and this is going to be my path because I know this is what I'm being called to do.
Mm.
And the marriage of the business consulting work that I did prior to that and exit planning are absolutely perfect because exit planning has 2 main distinctions. There's owner readiness and
Mhm.
business readiness. Okay.
Mhm.
The owner readiness side is the personal preparedness, the de-risking, making sure you've got your financial house in order, all of those things, right? The business readiness side is how transferable is this entity? And I'd already been doing all that work.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
So it all came together. And I think that that's why it's been a great, move forward for me with that, or I should say foot forward, because it just makes so much sense.
Well, and now you're become nationally known because so I was just talking to you when we were logging on here and getting all set up, and you were in Nashville, and I've seen other things on LinkedIn for places that you're speaking, and I can only imagine the stuff that you're doing virtually and all this other stuff. So, I think you alluded to the fact of now you've built your business to where you are obviously hands-on. You've built online courses and programs for owners to be able to use. Uh, you know, the foresight again that you had to build this business and go this direction is so timely, because we're now getting into so many people that, I mean, we just don't have enough people in the millennial and Gen X generation to take over these businesses.
Yeah.
And so, right, it's a simple population thing, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
how so we have a lot of listeners that listen to the show, and many of these people own businesses, and I think I've always said, like, as soon as you start your business or buy your business, this is when you should start thinking about exit planning. So
Mhm.
most people don't. So if someone's thinking about selling their business in the future, when then should they start engaging with you?
Yeah, that's a good question. The rule of thumb is when you're 5 years out.
Mm,
In reality, most owners will come to me when they're a couple years out, 2 or 3. There's still time when it's 2 or 3, unless they have a successor that they need to groom. Then they can count on it being taking longer.
mm,
Unfortunate thing is that many owners don't really know that. And they think that if I feel ready, then I'm ready. And that's not the case. Because as we start to work together, then they realize, well, I thought I was ready, but I'm clearly not ready because I need to de-risk myself personally, figure out what I'm going to do next. Can I maintain my lifestyle? All that stuff, right?
mhm,
Then is my business dependent upon me? You
mhm,
know, do I have customer or client concentration? Do I have good leaders in place? So that takes 2 years, 3 years, right? If I'm grooming a successor, a child of mine or a management team, and they don't have a lot of money, and I need my nest egg to retire, right?
mhm.
All of that takes time. Not only the grooming part, but figuring out how are they going to build equity in the business so that they have some kind of built up down payment so that they can get financing to pay me. Now, there are some owners who aren't concerned about any of that, and they're willing to just stay in the like board seat or whatever over time to get paid over time, or gift shares. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can structure it. But for the most part, most entrepreneurs need that nest egg in order to like take care of themselves in the future.
Do you find that because of the things I alluded to, of just the simple population, the amount of people to take over businesses, family businesses are just handing down to, we know the stats, right? Like second
Mhm.
generation typically can manage it and kind of leave that legacy. Third generation's typically the one to screw it up. And so, where do you see, let's take family business out of it, because I think I know where that will go, is on a standard business that is transitioning out, where do you like, what percentage on average, again, arbitrary number, are seller financed?
Well, it depends on the size of the company, but the smaller companies, let's just say, what is a smaller company? 20 million a year in revenue or less.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Maybe they've got 50 or so employees, maybe a little bit less than that. It really depends on their EBITDA, right? It depends on the
Hmm.
value of the business. Just because you got top line revenue of 20 million doesn't mean you're going
Hmm.
to sell it for that.
Right,
Okay.
right, right. Yep.
They'll probably sell it for 3 or 4 million, right? And that's a good SBA sized loan for
Hmm.
a business deal, right? And so SBA generally will require that the seller carry some of that financing.
Yeah.
And so there is risk in that. And
Yep.
and if you're going to be unplugging completely, then the risk of being able to get that paid back goes up because you're no longer engaged. And so you really want to have a lot of confidence in the person that you're selling the business to.
Yeah. Do you find
Mhm.
yourself that you sometimes become a business therapist?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
That was missing for me. I mean, I'm fine being the shoulders, and I'm fine being the heavy and delivering, news that maybe the owner doesn't want to, or, just being like a facilitator in a hot meeting. I'm fine doing that. It's necessary, and sometimes they just need it.
Yeah.
They don't always like what I have to say either, but I'd be remiss if I tried to sugarcoat things because that's what they pay me for.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. That's what I talked about. Like you've got that, you're like an M&M. You've got that little bit of a candy shell and a soft inside. So
I love that. Don't
you're
forget the peanuts
right, or
because I'm a
almonds, or
nutcase.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love peanuts.
Uh,
So talking about the smaller business and seller carry and stuff like that, it's not always the case, right?
mhm, mhm.
But if there is no family member or management team that's going to be taking over and there's no ESOP possibility, which takes time to figure all that out, then you're going to go third party. And what I think a lot of business owners think is that it has to be all or nothing.
Mm,
One reason why they resist because they can't imagine life without their business. And
yeah,
it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't. So let's not box ourselves into that corner and then resist it because we can't imagine life with what are we going to do? Right. That's the big question.
yeah.
So let's just phase out over time. Let's make sure that when we sell to the next party, that we can arrange something for ourselves to stay on, or just take some chips off the table and don't sell all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of I've just heard a lot of owners now, especially people that are that still want to maybe have their hands in it a little bit, but not as much. And there, we could do a whole nother show on this, but ESOPs are becoming a little bit more looked into. I'm not going to say they're more prevalent. I just think that people are just exploring that a little bit more than they have in the past because there's people like you that are out there talking about different options. And so I think that's another
Mhm.
thing that people can start thinking about and explore. And it doesn't have to be all fully employee owned, right? There's so many
Right.
different levels of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are
Well,
certain criteria that make, that make an ESOP make sense.
mhm.
So that's another conversation, but that's
Oh,
not for everybody and it's
again,
not for every business. Yeah.
yeah, we could do a whole show on that. Okay, your business going into the future. So, it sounds to me like you're kind of doing your own thing, but I have to believe that with the amount of people that have a desire to work with you and your expertise, you're going to have to grow and continue to add resources to help support you. What does the next few years look like for you?
Well, right now I'm building out, I've had this request by 4 firms in the last few months. So it's really weird how this is all coming out of the woodwork, if you will, um, who need me to help them teach their advisors about exit planning. Okay. And being a faculty member for EPI and, designing and writing a course called Jumpstart Your Exit Planning Practice, knowing a lot of advisors all over the country, I've been approached and they're like, okay, well, we're crying uncle. We can't figure this out. How do we educate our advisors? How do we bring this process indoors or into our office? How do we integrate it with our current practice? And what services do we deliver and how do we charge for it? So all of that, right? And then who do we work with outside that we can bring in and collaborate? That's another whole thing. So
Mhm.
so I have this program now that I'm creating for these firms who have requested that. And in addition to the education, then I would be like a co-advisor. So working with the advisors to walk the process with their clients who need exit planning help so that they're not on their own, but they're not out of the picture either, right? So there's that. The part of that with one firm anyway is to help them groom somebody who does what I do, like now, right? Well, I'm still working, which I'll be working for another 5 to 7 years or so,
Mhm.
maybe longer. I don't know. I like what I do,
Mhm.
and I see what happens to people when they don't keep their brain occupied. So
Mhm.
I'll be doing this in some fashion, right? But I think it's important because it takes a while to learn this, and so I think part of that offering is going to be um, just grooming somebody internally to actually do the work.
Yeah.
And
Train the trainer type of a thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In
Yeah.
the meantime, just doing exit planning work for the clients that they have, and being part of that team, but being externally part of the team, not internally.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm
Uh,
in.
Yeah, well, I was like, and I can't see you be quote unquote retiring. So, 5 to 7 years, maybe going at the level that you're going at, but then always, being a thought leader and continuing to be able to share this
Yeah,
expertise. I mean, that would be if you just fell off the face of the earth and decided to just live in your house in northern Minnesota or northish Minnesota, then that would that doesn't work for me either. So, what is, talk to me about your, talk to me about your family dynamic now. So, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Sean and I got married 6 years ago. He's an Iowa boy.
Yeah.
And he has 4 kids and I have 4 kids.
Cool.
And they're
Brady
all
bunch.
adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were all in our wedding, which was really cool.
Cool.
Yeah. And we have number 11 grandbaby on the way.
Wow. Congrats. That's huge. What,
Yeah.
what do you do? What do you guys do for fun? You and Sean?
We love the outdoors. So, and living on the lake, we're on the lake a lot. We're in the yard a lot. And when we moved to the lake, we lost all those bike trails. We used to bike all the time. So now we have to pack our bikes up and find a trail somewhere, which is fine. You know, it just doesn't happen as often as if you can just get on the MRT, you know?
Yeah.
So I miss it, but it's a trade-off, you know, being on the water.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we do that. We golf. In the winter, we snowshoe.
Cool.
And all of our kids are all athletes. And so when we all get together, we just play games. We play games inside, outside, depending on the weather. We play a lot of volleyball. And so that's always fun.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sweet.
it's awesome.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to do now, one of my favorite things is 9 questions so that we can really start to get into what makes you tick and who you are and all the questions that you didn't touch on. So let's take a quick break, listen to a few of our community supporters, and then come right back with Julie Keys. The topic of talent is hot in organizations of any size, and I would argue none more than small to mid-sized businesses. That's why it's crucial to have a partner to help you navigate all the HR idiosyncrasies so you can focus on working on your business and not in it. Insperity is a full-service HR partner with a high-touch, high-tech platform helping owners work through challenges like employee retention, company culture, and benefits, just to name a few. Do yourself a favor and explore all they have to offer at Insperity.com. Insperity, HR that makes a difference. Regardless if you're a startup just figuring things out or a medium-sized organization with a full team, having a legal partner by your side is crucial. Seiler Law is fiercely loyal to their clients and are passionate about removing headaches and roadblocks that can pop up during the growth of your business. Whether you need general outside counsel, are planning a business transaction, or even need someone to guide you through the estate planning process, the team at Seiler Law are the advocates for you. Visit SeilerLaw.com to learn more. Seiler Law, where experience meets pragmatism. For more than 20 years, KeyeStrategies has been the trusted financial advisor for women, business owners, executives, and high net worth families, developing financial plans designed to meet them where they are and propel them to where they want to be. Their mission is to remove the worry and stress associated with financial planning and replace it with clarity and confidence. The KeyeStrategies team takes the time to understand each client's unique situation, from financial concerns to the visions that they have for current and future generations, in order to create a truly customized plan. Through consistent communication and personal attentiveness, KeyeStrategies is fiercely devoted to personal well-being and financial prosperity. Get to know the KeyeStrategies team and how they can serve you at KeyeStrategiesWealth.com. United Healthcare is dedicated to helping people live healthier lives and making the health system work better for everyone by simplifying the healthcare experience, meeting consumer health and wellness needs, and sustaining trusted relationships with care providers. UHC is continually focused on building a modern, high-performing health system via improved access, affordability, outcomes, and experiences. With a network of over 1.6 million physicians and healthcare professionals in over 6,000 hospitals, United Healthcare is dedicated to connecting employers and their employees to better health by offering quality benefits designed for affordability. For more information, visit United Healthcare at www.uhc.com. United Healthcare, helping people live healthier lives. When you think of a typical CPA firm, you probably think of tax planning. Well, that just scratches the surface of what Boulay offers their clients. By providing smart, in-depth thinking from experts in accounting, audit, tax, and business consulting, they know what it takes to achieve financial success. Whether it's protecting your business, building your wealth, or securing your future, you can count on Boulay to go beyond addressing just financial matters and providing you with tailor-made, workable solutions. Learn about all they have to offer at BoulayGroup.com. Boulay, helping you get there. In addition to the community supporters you heard from on the show today, I also want to give a quick shout out to our evolving level community supporters, Carlson Partners, Fluid Interiors, Keystone Group International, Modern Foundation, and Rev Advisory Group. All right, we're back with Julie, and we are going to dig into 9 questions. I curated these specifically for you because I knew these would be things that we didn't touch on during our conversation. Can you confirm to me that you have no idea what I'm about to ask you?
I'm a little scared, like
Good. That's what I
oh,
wanted.
this will be
All right.
fun. This will be
Yeah.
fun. I like it.
I promise I was nice. So, all right. What was your first car?
My first car was a 73 Delta 88. We could fit 4 people in the front comfortably, and the stereo was worth more than the car.
How big
True
was the
story.
trunk? How big was the
True
trunk?
story. Oh, you could put a few bodies in there.
That's what I said. I think Lenny Newman was on the show a couple months ago, and he had a big old car too. And I'm like, how many bodies can you fit in that trunk? That's how you know it's a big car.
Yeah. Well, we used to have a drive-in theater in those days, you know, so you always throw a few people in the trunk so they don't all
Yeah.
have to be, right?
I love it. Yeah, among other things, I'm sure. Okay.
Right. Well, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Milk and cereal. All right. What is one guilty pleasure that you indulge in?
A guilty pleasure. Well, I love wine.
Yep. Amen,
Mhm.
sister. We can talk about some of the things we didn't talk about on the show over a bottle of wine someday.
Yeah.
If you could be any color in the big 152 color crayon case, what color would you be?
Gosh, can I say it depends on the day?
Yeah. So let's say today.
I absolutely love the color teal. But some days it would be red, some days it would be yellow. My sister always called me the multicolor sister because I would always buy stuff that was multicolored.
Yeah.
I still do.
I love it. That's a great
Because I
answer.
can't
No one's
pick
ever,
one. I love them all.
yeah, no one's ever answered it that way. That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
You're a rainbow of different emotions and colors, I'm sure. Yeah, love it. Okay, first of 2 would you rather questions, and I've loved that I've started to integrate would you rathers in there. So, would you rather live in the climate of Florida in July or Minnesota in January for 1 full year?
I would choose Florida in July for a year because I think that I could adapt and I wouldn't bitch as much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have air conditioning in there, but you also have the heat here. It's just, I would have answered opposite just because I hate being hot. Like humidity drives me crazy. So I'd rather
Yeah,
deal with like cracked skin and having to have some fires inside.
that's nice
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I hear you.
Back
All right.
skin, back skin.
What are 3 words that describe you?
Logical, faithful, and fun-loving.
Love it. Good answer. I love the boy, that's one question I need to ask more because that is the logical one I really liked because I actually get that from you and the
Mhm.
times I spent, especially today too. And I love the faithful one. That's a really good one. And then fun loving. Yeah. Like there's the M&M side, the logical shell, and then the fun loving chocolate with one peanut inside.
My sisters always give me peanut M&Ms for my birthday, FYI.
Oh, I eat them frozen. I love those things. Oh, they're so good.
So
Yeah.
addicting.
Yeah. Well, name one thing on your bucket list.
Tuscany.
Mm, love it.
Tuscany is on my list. I love wine. It's beautiful there. I've never been to Italy. That's my first stop.
Nah, I
Yeah.
love it. Good answer. It's on our list too.
Nice.
Would you rather have noisy neighbors or nosy neighbors?
One of the houses we moved into when my kids were little, my neighbor informed me like the next day, well, I'm the Gladys Kravitz of the neighborhood.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah, right. She proved it too.
Yeah.
Gosh, nosy or noisy? I think I go with nosy. I can ignore them pretty good, but when it's noisy, oof.
Drive you nuts. And that's why you live on a lake in northern-ish Minnesota to where you don't have to have all that stuff. Me too.
Right.
What or where is your go-to for creative inspiration?
I would say what versus where. For creative inspiration, movement.
Mm.
So in the summer, I get on the because I've got a standing elliptical that paddles.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a Hobie product, and so it's like scooter handles, but then it's got the paddle underneath, so you pedal it like an elliptical, and I sail across the water, and I have a pouch with a pen and paper and my phone. And when I need to be creative and think of things, I have to move. So, or I'll go for a walk, or I'll get on the treadmill if it's too cold to be outside. But movement always gets my brain going and helps me think.
Yeah, good answer. All right, last question. You've survived 8 out of 9. Last one. How do you define success?
I define success by being and doing the things that you're capable of. So not necessarily how much money you make, but doing and being the things and doing things, and believing, and instead of being a C average like the most of society, just striving for that A because you're capable of it. And if you're not, then strive for the B. But whatever you're capable of, I think that there's a lot of music left inside of people that never comes out, and they die with their music in them.
Yeah. I think, what's fascinating about that answer is that whenever I ask that question, and you align so well with even just who we are, Coalition9 as a community and things like that, is that it never is a money answer. Right. And I think the people that are so focused on the money side of things, and they're not focused on what breathes life into them or aligns with who they are missing out, because that's a great answer. And that's probably another reason why you're fantastic at what you do. And you're such a great advocate for your clients. So I mean, I could go on and on and on with you, and we could go down all these different rabbit holes. So let's just let people reach out to you and get to know you. So how can so I'm going to put links to all this stuff, plus probably some of the things that you alluded to earlier in the show, like some of your online courses and your book and all that, and your podcast and those things. But how can people get a hold of you if they want to get to know you a little better?
Yeah, maybe just reach out to me through my website, KeyeStrategies.com or poisedforexit.com. Either way, you can get a hold of me. My phone number's there. My email is there.
Everything. All right, good. We'll point people that direction. I think I'm also going to put your LinkedIn profile on there so people can check out your LinkedIn profile. I'll tell you, ever since the day that we had lunch at whatever restaurant it was in Blaine, I thought to myself, that'd be great to get you on the show at some point. Obviously, I wanted to eventually have you as part of our community. So your knowledge, your personality, all of the things that make you are so welcome to be a part of the Coalition community and makes us who we are. And we're just blessed to have you as part of our community. So thanks a lot for being on the show and being a valued member of our Coalition9 community.
Thank you, Aaron. It's really an honor to be on the show. It was super fun. And I love being a part of this group. It's just so nice to be with people who are so like-minded. It really is.
That's what it's all about. Well, on behalf of Julie Keyes, this has been the Power of 9 podcast. I am your host, Aaron Eggert, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time.